Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and we're going to talk about a courage, why Dungeons & Dragons is so critically important. And the reason for that is a courage that it gives us, Dungeons & Dragons gives us a courage that is born from experience, a courage that is born from imagination. A courage that is born from experience and imagination. So the world right now is absolutely terrified, and I'm hearing it everywhere. I hear it, the people in my church talk about it, the people in my D&D community talk about it, the people in my local community, who are outside of my church that I speak with, my neighbors, everyone is talking about AI, right? And they're like, oh no, AI, and I think the thing that's really interesting is, Andrew Yang talked about this, repetitive manual. There have been robots building cars in factories for 20 years, but now we have repetitive cognitive. We have robots that are writing essays, right? Robots that are creating art, right? And so the rest of the world just loses their mind. It's like, oh no, an AI is creating a piece of art. Oh, that can't happen. And Paizo, right, became frightened and then took an act of prejudice. So Paizo has already said AI cannot make art for any Pathfinder game. That is outrageously prejudiced, right? And it's saying, hey, if you're a robot, you can go kick rocks. You don't have rights. We hate you. You suck. You can't do anything. That's wrong. That's outrageously prejudiced. And if anybody, that worked at Paizo had ever watched a single episode of Star Trek Next Generation, they would realize you can't just treat robots like trash and non-humans. It's not right. It's but for Dungeons & Dragons, we know this, right? We've been prepared by Gary Gygax. We have the Modrons. We have the Warforged, right? Prepared by Gary Gygax and prepared by Keith Baker, right? So it's important, and it really is. And we're given this courage. I'm not afraid, and I've been defending robot creators right here on YouTube and on Twitter, right? But what really shocks me is people are like, oh, we can be prejudiced toward robots. So here's the point of this video. We have to defend born artists. We have to defend made artists. That's the robot that creates art that was not allowed in Clark's World. Clark's World is a small company that all they make is they publish science fiction short stories, and they recently castigated one of the creators for using a robot to help them create art, and then pulled it off the cover. And then of course the thread melted because half the people at Clark's World are like, are we joking? We're literally about sci-fi. We've been telling stories about robots creating art for 30 years, and the first time we encounter it, we run like cowards and we act like prejudiced people, right? And it was a huge discussion on Clark's World, right? There was so much discussion. They had to literally shut the thread down because it melded, right? It was bonkers, right? And so, so we get to this point where we have to, and so what's really interesting is it's not even remotely close to being done, right? And I keep saying this, dungeon masters are here to save the world. The institutions are wrecked. Nobody can trust them, and they have all the tools, and they have the people they need, but they have the tools they need, but the people and the processes are so broken, right? And so unwilling to work together that they can't bring real solutions. So science is no longer going to save planet Earth. It has to be art, right? And dungeon masters are the tip of the spear when it comes to art. We truly are, right? And the real reason we're talking today is I've already told you that we have to be ready to defend made artists, right? Born artists, right? You and I both agree that Jeremy Crawford needs the right to create beautiful art, right? And deliver us the next setting for Dungeons & Dragons, or deliver us the next D&D canon hardback. Nobody debates that. Oh, but can an AI create a D&D canon art book? Oh, no, we're all afraid. We're all prejudiced. Oh, look how fast it happened. We never watched a single episode of Star Trek Next Generation, right? And it's frustrating, and it's bad, right? But we need this courage that of created by Dungeons and Dragons. We need the courage Dungeons and Dragons to give us, the courage that comes from experience, and the courage that comes from experience, and the courage that comes from imagination. And the reason why is now we have necro creators, right? We all just watched Fast X. Paul Walker is in that movie. Paul Walker's been dead for 4 years, right? He made that movie. He's in that movie. There are parts in that film where Paul Walker is on screen again and reprising his role in the Fast and Furious series, but he is dead, right? That is a necro creator, right? Only dungeon masters understand born artists, made artists, necro artists, and what is the next type of artist that the world will be afraid of and will take a prejudiced action again. But a dungeon master, we know what a necro artist is. We've been dealing with necromancers. And we've had the discussion. Oh, no, necromancy, maybe that could be used by somebody who's neutral aligned and maybe even good aligned. You see what I'm saying? We're the only ones who can actually understand this world, and we've been prepared for this world by Dungeons and Dragons, and we're the only ones who can fight the ignorance and the prejudice that is coming out of the world. Science will not save this world. Art will save this world. And dungeon masters are the greatest artists today. Every single word of that is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.